The next time you throw away a packet of chips, it may just end up in a pair of sunglasses. Hello and welcome to It's All Plastic episode 10. In this episode, we talk about a Pune-based startup that launched the world's first recycled sunglasses made from packets of chips. Ashaya guarantees that its sunglasses made out of MLPs or multi-layered plastics will not break. It is reimagining waste for good. And to discuss this in detail, we're in conversation with Anish Malpani, who's the founder of Ashaya. Thank you so much, Anish, for taking out time and speaking to me today.
Thanks, Navya, for having me.
I want to start with the basics first. What are multi-layered plastics and what is it like to recycle them? Could you tell us a little bit more about the process?
So the multi-layered plastics are what they actually mean, right? They are packets of chips or chocolate wrappers or Tetra Pak that have many layers of plastic and different materials fused together. And these complex packets exist to extend the shelf life of products and to make sure that your chips are fresh, right? That's what multi-layered plastic is. And it's considered impossible to recycle because there's so many different materials fused together. It's very inconsistent, like a chips packet is different from a chocolate wrapper. So what our process does is that our patent pending process separates the layers and mechanically extracts building blocks from it. So the new materials we create are way more recyclable than the original.
Okay.
So that's how we separate, you delaminate, demetallize. There is also we extract materials.
That's interesting. So what inspired you to start this journey of making the world's first sunglasses out of recycled MLPs, and why only sunglasses?
Yeah, so sunglasses are not going to solve the waste problem in India or the waste picker woes that we have. But it's a proof of concept, right? That you can take this impossible to recycle plastic waste, convert it into high quality premium products while empowering waste pickers into better life. Because you see a lot of these, and you know this better than I do, I guess, like you see so many of these recycling initiatives. They're very good stories, right? But they're normally recycling MLP into bricks or into road or like into furniture. These are all very low-end applications. Like to make sunglasses, to be able to mold sunglasses, you require certain high quality virgin like mechanical properties, moldability. So the reason we chose sunglasses was to show what this recycled material is capable of, to have more high-end applications, and also to kind of make a statement. It's a statement product that, hey, this is possible, right? But in the long run, we're not just going to make sunglasses. The goal is to sell our material to large manufacturers and replace virgin plastic with recycled plastic as much as possible.
Right. As you said, MLPs are often described as impossible to recycle. What were the challenges that Ashaya encountered after it decided to increase the value of waste through innovations and technologies in recycling?
So we started thinking from first principles, right? There was no right answer or wrong answer. It didn't matter if it was chemical engineering, mechanical engineering, or physics or chemistry or magic. It didn't matter, right? I remember we started off with a packet of chips with 2 desks, 2 chairs, and a stirrer. We were like reading extensively, doing experiments extensively. So we had a clear goal. We were like, with MLP, the problem is that there's multiple layers fused together. So separating the layers and isolating them had to be done, but it had to be done in an economically viable way, in a greener fashion, in a way that is, can actually scale. So I think the challenge, it is considered impossible for a reason. And I think that the real trick or what was tough was not coming. What was tough was coming up with a solution that will fit into the economics that are required for the solution to work, right? Otherwise, you can't have, if it's too expensive, then it's a fun story, but it's not really going to solve it.
Yeah, true. Could you tell us a little bit more about the end of recycling options for the sunglasses? How do you ensure that the products are sustainable and eco-friendly in their entirety?
Yeah, it's a really great question, right? And I think a lot of recyclers, what they say is that, listen, send it back, especially MLP recyclers, it's recyclable, send it back to me and we'll recycle it. I think that's not realistic, right? Like for the sunglasses to come back into a lab, the bricks to come back into the same place that it's been manufactured is not realistic. That doesn't make it recyclable. But what we are doing is that because we're extracting materials, these sunglasses, these frames are made from polyolefins, like fugga is the street word for it. It's a combination of polypropylene, polyethylene. So what this means is that any conventional recycler, if they find these sunglasses, they will be able to process them just like any other plastic. They classify them as fugga, whether it goes into PP or into PE, it doesn't matter because they have compatibilizers in it, and it would not affect their recycling processes. And we've tested this out in our lab, assuming we were like a typical recycler. So again, that's really important for our work. It's the depth of our impact, depth of our recycling, that even the new material we create is way more recyclable than the original MLP. And just basically recyclable by anybody, not by us. Obviously, we offer end of life recycling. We offer to pick up and recycle it in house, but that's not the answer. That should be done by.
Absolutely. Anish, India is one of the biggest plastic waste generators in the world. The country produces more than 3.4 million tons of plastic in a year. How do you think a country like India can solve this problem?
I think from my research in this space, even though India produces a lot of plastic, it's not the highest amount of plastic per person, right? We have a big population, we're a big country. Our plastic generation is lesser than most other countries, but it doesn't mean that it's not a problem, right? It is a problem. But also, plastic is only 10% of all the waste we generate. It's not even the majority of it. A large percentage of it does get recycled, depending on which numbers that you believe, right? So for me, the way this problem gets solved is there's no one silver bullet, right? Everyone's like, you this and everything gets sorted out. There are multiple solutions, there are multiple interventions that need to come together that involve non-profits, for-profits, the government, consumer behavior change. I don't think there's any one solution, right? I think it's a bit of all of this that can help us get to the answer. But it's also important to look at this problem holistically.
Yes.
In India, it's not just a waste issue. We have 40 lakh or close to 4 million waste pickers who live really poor lives. So like 50% of the income for waste picker is through plastic waste. So when you think of banning all plastic, you're taking 50% of the income of a waste picker away, right? So it's not as straightforward. So sometimes I don't like it when we borrow ideas from the West, because there are no rag pickers or waste pickers in the West. So you can have more draconian things there, but here it is a bit more complex. You have to look at things holistically, and also that plastic has economic value. It's a good material if used in the right way, right? So how do you look at it from an economic perspective as well? What are the alternatives to this?
In my opinion, plastic is a wonderful resource, looking at how it's come all over the years and how we've been, changing plastic as per our convenience. But as you said, we need a more holistic approach to sort of manage it better. Do you think India has the right infrastructure, the recycling infrastructure, that can fight this mindless consumption of plastic? And also, do you think there is enough awareness about plastic in the country?
It's hard to say about the awareness. Obviously, I'm very biased because I'm so close to it. It's a higher plastic all the time. But how much does the general person really care about this? There probably could be more awareness, but there are also bigger, graver, deeper problems in our country. I think plastic is one of the many problems that exists. I don't know if I wouldn't put it at the top of the list of all the problems that are there. I think, do we have the infrastructure? The sad truth is that because we have a massive informal economy, a lot of this plastic generally gets recycled. I'll give you an example. Like sometimes even in our lab, we have some material that is just lying around. Somebody will come and be like, hey, can I take this material? I want to sell it to the scrap shop dealer. I'm like, I'm not even trying to dispose of this material, and somebody's coming to, So these informal systems, because there's not enough, because it's a source of income, it works. It's not the best way to do it. It's not hygienic, or it's not. It's definitely not like you don't know what's actually happening to the plastic down the stream. But there are systems in place, I think, that make India better than most countries. I don't think they're the best systems. We have to improve the systems and make them more formalized and more fair. And definitely more safe. Do we have enough infrastructure? Very hard to answer the question. I think, is the government focused on Swachh Bharat and improving? Yes, I think they are. I think, whatever your opinion on the government is, I think they are trying to improve the cleanliness and the waste management practices in India. And as a startup in the waste management space in India, I do feel support.
Yeah, that's wonderful. You know, for years, the 3 Rs of sustainability have been touted as the ultimate solution to the plastic crisis. But recently, a lot of reports that have come to the fore, they suggest that plastic, if recycled, is not, helping. It usually releases a lot of microplastics back into the environment. What do you think about this?
Yeah, so I remember seeing this article somewhere.
Yeah.
I think there was and then I read it. I remember reading about it as well. I thought it was very clickbaity, right? Was trying to be very, was trying to be very provocative.
Hmm.
Because if you double click and you look into the numbers, yes, microplastics is an issue. But what do you think is the largest creator of microplastics? So 80% of all microplastics are created by tires, textile
Yeah.
industry, and dust,
Yeah.
right? Especially so technically you shouldn't be washing your clothes, because when you wash your clothes, it produces the most amount of microplastics. Yes, the microplastic issue is real. Is recycling the only way to solve the plastic issue? No. It's one of the many ways, I said, right? Like recycling is one element. I don't think you can completely disqualify it because it produces microplastic. Almost anything, you sneeze and you produce microplastics, right? Literally, like if you go for a run, you produce microplastics. I mean, so you have to. I think again, as I said, looking at it holistically, recycling is not the end of the solution that's going to solve everything. It's one of the solutions. Reducing, repurposing, better materials, not producing a lot of single-use plastics, not abusing it, right? Like really finding better use of the material, and having better disposal systems, and also using. We're investigating how we can reduce the microplastics that we create during our processes as well, right? Like, but we don't want perfect to be the enemy of good. Now, for that, if you stop all recycling, then you're going to be net worse off, which is what I think, right? So you can't be thinking. So it's you can't think in isolation. Oh, it's okay to have plastic lying everywhere. Just stop people from using plastic, but then that's not going to happen either, because you start replacing plastic. It can have a disproportionate impact on the cost of a product, and that'll have a disproportionate impact on the less wealthy, the poor. For us, we'll be fine. We'll just be like, oh, we'll have this just with sustainable packaging. But then suddenly the chocolate bar is too expensive, or suddenly the chips. People who, it won't affect us. It'll affect the poor. It'll affect the lower middle classes in disproportionately. So again, looking at things holistically is the way to think about it. And I think we should be looking at all solutions in a way that makes sense. Right? There's no silver bullet. It's not going to be this one. So just because I do plastic recycling, plastic recycling is the best. No, that's not the case. That's one of the many solutions.
Absolutely. Anish, you talked about waste pickers. Ashaya's unique business model also benefits waste pickers. Could you tell us a little bit more about that?
Right. Again, when I studied the space, it was very obvious to me that you can't, whatever solution you're coming up with, you have to include the informal economy, and not just as a checkbox. TK, we've given them jobs. No, as like hey, because see, I don't think waste picking should exist as an occupation. But if you're displacing waste pickers, it needs to be into better life, right? So if you're working in the waste management space, it becomes our responsibility to be like, hey, what are alternative careers, or what are ways to incorporate them? What are solutions that we're coming up with that are not negatively impacting people's livelihoods, right? So yeah, we this is central to what I do and what we do here at Ashaya and Without. So most importantly, we formalize these waste pickers into our supply chain, giving them dignified labor, upskill them, health insurance, better salaries, consistency, right? Like just guarantee ki haan, like I remember some waste picker saying, oh, on the 31st, I get my money. I'm like, wow, like that's a big deal for you. Like on 31st, you get your money. Like it's kind of almost sad that that's the bar. So it's but making sure that it's dignified labor, it's respectful, nobody's like above or below anybody, right? I think that's something that's core. Also, like 10% of our sales goes towards scholarships for students, for children of waste pickers, ensuring they stay in school. We buy this waste directly from waste picker collectives, paying them a premium, paying them additional income while sustaining our margins as well, which is also really important. So like really being holistic about this, and this is just touching the surface. This is just the beginning. Navya, for us, like it's much. We have to go much deeper. It's about there are also psychological issues around living in living in and around waste, their livelihoods holistically, not just from a money perspective or a health perspective or education perspective, but also from an overall well-being.
I think that's wonderful if Ashaya is helping out waste pickers in a way that's also looking after them, their livelihoods, and also their children, as you said. It's brilliant. I also want to talk about how people nowadays are choosing eco-conscious and sustainable and eco-friendly products, and there are a lot of options in the market as of now. As a sustainable brand yourself, what is the next step? How does Ashaya plan to scale up to create an impact?
So, right, I think my perspective on this is, I think there's a lot of doom and gloom right now about sustainability, and I think it's like, oh, if you don't do this, everything's gonna end. And I think while that might be true, like it's not helpful. It kind of puts people off. I think from my perspective, the beauty of humanity is our ability to innovate and to kind of solve problems. So I think that's how we try to be a little bit more, not optimistic, but just, a little bit more optimistic in the sense that we're like, hey, look, we're working really hard to make sure that the sunglasses, the products, the material we produce is the most sustainable out there, not only from a environmental perspective, but also from a social perspective, right? So when you like buy our products, or when you consume, when you live your life with our products, you don't have to worry because we're working really hard, right? So it's like it's without worries as we build a world, right? I think, and so we want to have, and then we want to make that like the default choice as well, or the norm, right? Like, are you thinking about sustainability when you're buying things? Because I think to tell people to stop consumption, especially people, coming out of poverty or from lower income to middle income, tell them, oh, don't fly anymore, don't have kids, don't do anything fun, because I think it's very unfair, right? But if we can build systems in place that just make humans net positive assets. Right now, I think we're net negative assets where we extract more from the earth and give it back. But how can we give as much, or at least give more to the earth than extract from it? I think living in that balance is very important. So it's not like don't live life, don't live in abundance, but live in an abundance that is not at the expense of the earth. I think that's very much the philosophy that we want to espouse. And I think products are just our way of getting into the market, like selling materials to large-scale manufacturers, making it possible. Like that's why we focus on high-quality materials, right? Because any manufacturer will tell you that they want sustainable material, right? The problem is cost. The problem is mechanical properties, or like is the quality good enough, right? And can you give it to me in the large inconsistency? Like it's like one day it's nice, second day it's not nice. But if you give them all of this, then they will, without any qualms, switch to sustainable materials. But you have to provide them that. That's the world we live in. So I think just focusing on realistic solutions that can work, and not things that are just like ridden in emotion.
I think we need realistic solutions and not just words. I had a lot of fun talking to you today, Anish. I think Ashaya is doing some wonderful work. It's as Ashaya says, when you're wearing a sunglass from Ashaya, you're not just wearing the sunglass, you're wearing change. And I wish Ashaya all the very best. I think what you guys are doing is brilliant. And I'm really looking forward to more interesting products from the brand. Thank you so much for speaking to me today.
Thank you, Navya, for the platform and for having this conversation.